So last night's results for the NDP were mixed. There were undeniable losses in Quebec, and some good MPs went down in Quebec and elsewhere. But on the other hand, there were some real gains in places like Winnipeg and Nunavut, and some real strong MPs joined the caucus like Leah Gazan and Matthew Green and so many others. And on the whole, the NDP gained the balance of power in a minority government. And what this all tells me is that Jagmeet Singh should still remain the leader of the NDP. And while most of the people I've seen have been supportive of that idea, there's been some percolating statements about people saying he should go, or that we need a new leader, or that he lost too many seats to stay viable, or that he can't beat Trudeau, and on and on and on, or that he's not viable in Quebec. And all of those sorts of things, and I want to just state quickly and clearly that I have 100% confidence in Jagmeet Singh's leadership. And I know that he needs to remain our leader if we're going to have a productive role in this minority government, and if we're going to have a force that can build towards the next election, which might be in as little as 2 years, given that minority governments don't last as long. Look, at the end of the day, the narrative in this election when it started was absolutely horrendous. The narrative was about us losing party status, finishing behind the Greens. The literal death of the federal NDP was something that pundits and media figures were talking about every single goddamn day. And yet by the end of it, Singh didn't achieve what the last polls indicated was possible, but he did a lot better than what the initial expectations and projections were. And that has to be remembered. And it also has to be remembered that he did so in the face of deep barriers within and beyond the NDP. Financial barriers, barriers around racism, barriers around media bias, barriers around the fact that very few people, even people who might be supportive, gave him a chance. And yet he proved them largely wrong and now holds the balance of power with a diverse and young and bold and progressive caucus to boot. That's incredibly important. It also needs to be said that Jagmeet Singh and his personal numbers improved drastically over the campaign. And I don't see that ending. I see that trend continuing. Singh is now the most popular leader in Canada, and that's going to mean something in this minority parliament. Because when Singh champions a policy, and when Singh takes a position, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Justin Trudeau. His minority government is relatively comfortable, so he doesn't need to worry day to day about his government falling, as much as he would in a narrow minority. But if Singh is able to put pressure by championing things like Pharmacare, dentalcare, childcare, electoral reform, and all those sorts of things, it'll mean that Justin Trudeau has to worry about people who voted for him this time actually going over to Singh because they like Singh's ideas better. Remember, a fairly notable portion of Trudeau's voters went to him out of fear of Scheer and nothing else. And there are many people who are Liberal partisans, but who still like NDP ideas. And it needs to be remembered again that Abacus's data showed that there was only one outcome in this election that Canadians thought was a good thing, and that was the Liberals and the NDP sharing power. The Liberals trying to govern as if they have a majority still will come off as arrogant, and they will alienate the progressive Canadians who want to see cooperation between Trudeau and Singh on these key files. They want to see Pharmacare. They want to see dental care. They want to see childcare. And if Singh is willing to cooperate with Trudeau, but Trudeau isn't, it's going to spell real trouble. And Singh, I think, can sell that cooperation. Singh can sell that in an optimistic way that can inspire Canadians to unite behind him. And I don't know if anybody else could do that in this scenario. Also, Singh was the second choice of pretty much every party in this election, and that bodes really well going forward, because if Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau don't impress people, and they haven't impressed people, both of them seem to get votes primarily because of who their opponent was rather than who they were. But the fact is that Singh is in a real great position to mop up second place votes as this parliament goes forward, and that will give him great authority in pushing forward progressive issues in this minority parliament. And biggest of all is that Singh needs our support right now. Singh has more than any other leader since the Cold War embraced the left-wing nature of this party. He's embraced young people. He's embraced diversity. And he had our back, even if not perfectly. And so we need to have his back. He needs to know that the party is behind him, that there's no knives about to be plunged into his back, so he can focus on his two key tasks. One, continue to bring the NDP's bold progressive policy to Canadians. And two, to put pressure on Justin Trudeau to implement planks of that policy in this minority government. And he will be much more effective at that job if he knows his position within the party is crystal clear, and it has to be rock solid that we back him. Jagmeet Singh did so much good in this election. He ran on a bold left platform. He reinvigorated discussions of class conflict. He is the only leader in the history of this country federally, and that includes previous NDP leaders, to run a slate of candidates that actually represents the diversity of this country. Singh ran a historic campaign in so many ways, and the results were not quite what we wanted. And to be honest, Jagmeet will tell you the results were not what he wanted. But the results were not a doom and gloom scenario, and he is in a position to build a progressive movement going forward. But he needs us to be with him. And a lot of people are concerned, saying, well, he couldn't crack Toronto. He couldn't crack Quebec. He couldn't crack much of Atlantic Canada. What's he going to do? And I have to say that there's a couple factors there, and I don't think they'll be as important next time around. One, a lot of people still supported Trudeau strategically. They went to him out of fear. That might still happen in certain areas the next time around, but you have to also think that Trudeau going back to that well over and over again will become less effective. And Jagmeet Singh will find more audiences in places like Toronto as Justin Trudeau inevitably disappoints progressives over and over and over again. They gave him a second chance this time around, but it was largely because they didn't like Scheer. And in Quebec, there was a ton of discussion. They won't vote for somebody with a turban, a lot of people said. And while the results in Quebec were not as good as we'd hoped for, only one seat in Quebec, the reality is that those people in Quebec got to learn more about Jagmeet Singh, and I think they learned to like him a little bit more. Learn what he was about. Learn about Sikhism. Learn that it's not that big of a deal that a man has a different faith than most Quebecers, and that he wears a piece of religious garb that most Quebecers don't wear. And I feel that the next time he goes to Quebec, the next election, and in the interim period between now and that election, Jagmeet Singh will have a great opportunity at winning support of Quebecers that weren't quite ready to give over their votes just yet. So all in all, guys, this wasn't the result we were hoping for. A lot of good MPs went down, and we didn't have breakthroughs in some areas we wanted to see. But I don't think any of that is due to the fundamental inability of Jagmeet Singh to be a good leader of this party. Quite conversely, I think Jagmeet Singh is a great leader of this party. He's done many of the right things. We're moving in the correct direction. And at this stage, it's vital that we quash any discussions of a leadership review or a leadership race or a who's going to be the next leader. And we focus on backing Jagmeet and continue to build this left-wing movement, to put pressure on Trudeau in Parliament and to bring our platform to regular Canadians outside of it. We have to do that. That's the only way forward. And there's going to be an election, likely in 2 years. Jagmeet needs all of us on deck so that he can do the work preparing for it.